We're here. OS8, man. OS8. This is it. Open Seminar 8. We're here. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. I appreciate everybody's time. So, look, let me explain real quick, right? So we're just going to do the same thing we always do. We're 8 in. I know Homegirl is, like, used to this by now, right? Because we have Mark Berry for a couple weeks. So, like, you know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he remains buried, yeah.
No, very much so. Very, very much so. No, Mark is definitely buried. I know nobody knows where the hell Mark is at this stage. But in any case, the point is, we're back here. We're week 8 now. So we've been into this for a little while now. So by now, you guys should be used to what all this is about and what we do. But open seminar.
Did you notice Corinne just said that, you know, you've got competition on your hands?
Listen, I don't know what Corinne's talking about. Like, people have, like, visual problems. I don't know if it's the problem with the feed or the camera. I don't know what it is exactly. But some people
just accept it. Just accept it. But anyway, moving on.
That's why the open seminar is here, to clarify people's confusions. That's what we do. God damn it. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. So by the end of this, ain't gonna be no debates about who looking fly. Like, there's no debates, man. No discussion.
Yeah, it'll be me. Yeah, exactly. Moving on.
Homie, listen. You know what? I'm gonna let you have this win for now, because this is about to be a messy seminar. This is about to get real messy. This is gonna get real messy. So listen.
I was really looking forward to it, and I'm not anymore. Anyway, intro.
You want to introduce it?
Well, really? So the subject is
I'm saying
individuality.
Impede.
Individuality impede progress.
Well, impede or improve, right? That's what we're looking for. Well, I want to
yeah.
Is that what? Just to jump in. What I want to figure out is that, right? I want to understand whether or not this concept of the individual, this concept of the self, this thing that we're told we're all supposed to have, and this thing that we're all told we're supposed to reinforce all the time, whether that concept of self or individuality is a good thing. Like, does it help or does it not? Like, are you better off for reinforcing your sense of self, or are you worse off? Does it slow you down, or does it progress you? It's just that's it. That's what we're trying to figure out. So this individual self that you're walking around with all day long, and you're telling yourself you're supposed to care about yourself, and I'm important, and I'm what have you, and I'm supposed to be the best, and it's all about my rights and what I need, and blah, 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 blah. Whether or not any of that is actually, like, useful to you, whether any of that is of any use to you, right?
Okay.
Everybody's wondering, that's 55 in the background. I don't need to explain. If you know, you know. I'm turning it down, but if you know, you know. That's 55 in the background. If no one knows what 55 is, I don't know why you even on my live right now. Like, I'm just saying, if y'all don't even know what 55 is, I'm talking to a group of people who don't know what 55 is. I don't know why you on my live. I'm just trying to tell you. Like, there are studies.
I feel like it's like a menu we're ordering from now. 55.
You make it sound like the Chinese wings, man. Like, I order 49, please.
49.
Grab 49 with a side of 28, and hold and hold the sweet and sour sauce, man. So look, listen, let's get into this. I kind of want to, like, just dive in, but let me set the stage a little bit, because, like, I feel like,
yeah,
I don't.
You're like, why are we here, Ethad?
Because I look great. What do you mean? I don't understand. Why are you here?
Because I look better.
The camera's on me. I don't know what you're talking about. But all right, look, no, listen. I want us to kind of, like, figure out this. I want us to set the stage. I want us to figure out exactly what's about to happen, because this might get a little messy. This might get a little messy. So now, listen, because we talked. No, hold up. Because we talked a little bit last week about the individual kind of. We talked about the self to some degree last week. We talked about Nietzsche. We talked about the concept of the self as derived from Nietzsche, but with respect to, like, compassion and ambition. So we're talking about your sense of ambition and your sense of compassion. So we were there to some degree. We kind of touched on this a little bit. But if I had to think of, like, the epitome of the concept of self, right? If I think of the person that most epitomizes this concept of selfhood or individuality, there's only one name that rings to mind, that brings up, like, okay, I know who stands out in this field. You want to, I don't know, fam. You want to introduce? Because, like, you might have to end up. I'm just saying, you might end up defending this.
So, how do you want me to? Do you want me to, like, just go right?
Tell us the name, homie. Tell us the name. Who we talk about?
Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, like, do I get to do at least a caveat? The caveat. Can I? Or you're going to be like, no, I don't care.
No, you could caveat as much. You could caveat this conversation to hell. You could caveat the crap out of this conversation. I don't see this ending well for you. So do you think? caveat, fam, caveat. Who's Ayn Rand?
So, well, I mean, in my humble exposition,
Look at you
is
coughing,
the
please already. Look at you.
novelist. It's just because I'm preparing for the slaughter that I know is coming my way.
You set this up. All right, cool. Bet, go ahead.
So she's the novelist to the book, The Fountainhead. And the reason, well, we kind of mentioned it last week, but this is relating to a personal history between you and I, in that this conversation has come up before. And I, as much as I don't want to get slaughtered today, I'm looking forward to settling this argument, you know?
I don't know how you set yourself up like this, bro. Like, I don't know what you did to yourself or why you were doing this to yourself, but it's cool. We could do this. No, we're going to do it. Listen, all right, look. So, insofar as Ayn Rand epitomizes this, at least to me, and I suspect to you too, epitomizes this concept of individuality, certainly to her, right? As far as Ayn Rand herself was concerned, she thought of herself as the epitome of the concept of individuality, selfhood, self-rights, all that other kind of, like, bleh, that stuff. But cool, that's how she thought of herself, that's how she presented her own work, and that's what she thought of herself. So what I want us to do is not go in blind, or not go in Ayn Randish, right? Let's not go in blind. See, I started already. Let's not go in blind, right? I want us to kind of like figure out what these concepts are first, where they come from, how we got here, and then we can start kicking it with like Miss Rand, right? Figure out what the hell she's talking about. All right, look, so the individual, let's start there. Because there's really two ways you could think about this, and they're both really the same thing, and that's what I want to get at, right? But the word, the term, the individual is always weird to me, because it comes from the Latin, right? So we've got in, as in not, and then the rest of the dividus, which means divisible.
Ah.
Right. So if something is indivisible, it's the individual is indivisible. That's what that is, right? So if you're an individual, you're a whole one. But I want us to kind of like really, really reinforce that point. You're a whole one. You're already a whole one. You don't need to complete yourself. There's nothing you need to find to be the full self that you are. That's what a self is. If you have a self, it's a whole self. That's what that is. It's given. All right, cool. Let's get that clear outright. Let's just make sure we know what that is, right? So there's this problem though. Because as soon as we say, all right, but what is myself? There's this immediate division that occurs, almost as a sleight of hand without our realizing it, right? So what is myself? Well, you've suddenly made two selves. There's the person asking and the person you're asking about. Because the person asking you can't be, do you see what I'm saying? You've kind of like set this framework up in your head where you're going, okay, so who am I? What is myself? What is my individual self? Blah, 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 blah.
Is this really what we're talking about? I thought it was the sense of individuality, which is different, to my estimation,
Explain.
to, you know, the self.
I see how you're going in. I see how you're going in. I see what you're trying to do. No, it's cool. Do your thing. I see what you're trying. No, I like this. No, you're brave, man. No, I like it. That's cool. Hit me.
I figure if I'm going to die today, I might as well go in style.
I mean, if you call this style, fam, it's going to be bloody as fuck. But no, do your thing. Do your thing. No,
seriously, individuality. Because, like, you're right. Last week we did the self, and, you know, and I accept that. But, like, the individuality is a thing we do, right? No? A way of behaving, a way of being, rather than the questioning of who am I.
What do you mean? Because, like, you are, when we're talking about our own individuality, if we're going to talk about it, as Ayn Rand does, she's talking about her individuality. So if we're going to talk about our individuality, we're talking about ourselves. Her sole concern and our concern in talking about my individual self and my sense of self and what have you is its restoration, its confirmation, the feeling and the confidence that's derived from a real sense of pride in oneself or from a real sense of self. It's that sense of selfhood, that sense of who I am or what I ought to be or what have you. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a very, I see what you're trying to do, but let me explain how you're not going to get out of this like little, because you're showing me that there is a hair that could be split here, and I agree with that split. I totally do. And I'm on that side of the split too. I'm just saying no one else is. Like, no, Ayn Rand isn't, nobody else is. It's just you and me. And you're the one looking over there going, no, but these guys are our friends. I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They don't want nothing to do with you. What I mean is this.
I just want us all to get along, Etho.
No, so do I. So do I. But some people confused as fuck, and I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need to.
Then
like,
give it to me. I'll shut up. You give it to me. And
no.
It's
cool. What I'm saying is this. You're right in the sense that as one is behaving, one has like an intuitive sense of individuated self, right? There's no reflection required there in the course of one's behavior. So as one goes about one's behavior, that's already there. And that sense of self, I wholeheartedly agree with. I got no beef with that. And we talked about this a bit last week. My concern is when that pauses, and then we have to reflect on our sense of selves to determine its meaning, its value, its importance, my value as a person, my importance as a person, my sense of selfhood, who I ought to be, right? And this conversation comes up a lot in terms of like, particularly nowadays, and this is why I wanted us to figure out how we got here, because it comes up a lot in terms of like, I don't know, motivation for getting a job. You got to be confident in yourself, man, believe in who you are and go and make yourself something and all that kind of bullshit. It's the same thing when we're talking about people's sense of sexuality, when we're talking about people's sense of success, when we're talking about people's sense of goals, when we're talking, like, all of our references to our lives involve this kind of like reflection on a self.
Yeah.
All right. It's that reflective process on this self that I'm a little bit perturbed by. And it's that reflective, that dualistic reflective thing on the self that's gonna come up a lot here, because that's the source of the problem, right? So I have no problem with a person thinking that they are a self, just being a self, but then we don't need to have a conversation, right? I'm just saying, if you're just walking around as a self, I'm walking around as a self, and we accept this as a given, then what are we talking about?
Yeah,
we're good. We're two indivisible wholes. Good. Ain't got no beef. Ain't got no discussion to be had. So far, so good. But if that's the case, then we ain't got no conversation to have. In which case, we can cut this live off right now and just say I won. It's okay. But if on the other hand,
no, I ain't done with you yet.
I love that you think you got something to do. That's great, man. I love it, man. But what I'm saying is, think about, how do I put this? The concept is summed up really nicely in the Hagakure, right? What I'm trying to get at is a concept summed up in the Hagakure. I don't know what the Hagakure is. Get off my life. Like, I don't know why you're here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. What are you doing here? What do you read? Like, why are you here?
If you don't know, then, you know.
Honestly, I swear to God, I'm in classroom sometimes, and I'll say things. No, but to be fair, I feel like I have a right, because I'm in the classroom sometimes. I'm talking to kids, and I'll be like, "Yo, so listen, Malcolm X said this," and they look at me like, "Who's Malcolm X?" I'm like, "All right, get out."
Yeah, that's
unforgivable.
Get out. Yeah.
No, get out. No, go home. Yeah. I can't teach you from here. If you don't know who Malcolm X, go home. I can't help you from this position, fam. Go and do some research. Come back to me, and we can talk. But if you don't exist in the world, like where Malcolm X also exists, we can't talk, bro. I don't know how to help you.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
You can't not know who Malcolm is. Like, what's wrong with you? So, like, okay, so this is what I'm saying to you. There's some things, so Hagakure. The Hagakure, right? Japanese samurai text written by a guy called Miyamoto Musashi. It's mad old, but in any case, all right, don't do that. Don't.
I'm just being in the moment, Ithar, you know?
Fam. Don't culturally appropriate and then do the Japanese. Fam, don't do that. Listen, we're trying to bring this conversation up a couple levels. We're trying to get our viewership up. Here you
okay, I got you.
You're dissing the whole of Japan. Like, come on, man. Come on. There might be some Japanese people up on Instagram. Like, relax. So no, what I'm saying, it's a real simple phrase. It's a real simple idea from the Hagakure. It says, it is bad when one thing becomes two. It's the same for anything that's called away. If one understands things in this manner, he should be able to hear about all ways and more be in accord with his own.
Okay.
I just want us to just think about it for a second. If I understand that it's bad when one thing becomes two, that is to say that I understand that it's an inherent truth that all things are one, then when I hear about other ways, they don't take me further from my own. The way that I hear about reinforces mine, because there's a reason I heard that. There's a reason I heard it at this time.
Sure.
There's a reason I heard it in this way. Yeah. And it tells me something about whatever my way is. Do you see my point? I don't need to, at any given point, reinforce my sense of self by divorcing and going, do I really know my way? Is this the right way? Who am I trying to be? Whatever. These questions never arrive. They never come up. You never need to entertain them. You're already on the way. Why? Because the second I do that, the second I engage in that particular reflective process, one thing has become two. This is bad. One thing has become two in this instance, and this is bad. This is what I'm talking about, right? But this comes from somewhere. This isn't from nowhere. We talked a little bit about it last week. The introduction of the idea of, let's be very clear. The concept of an I or a self is mad old, right? Since there have been human beings, we've been talking about this. This is not like new. We're going to talk about in terms of the ego later on, but this isn't new. Modern concept, the modern idea of the individual self, right? The modern reference to the individual self is attributable in large part, not exclusively, but in large part to Sigmund Freud, primarily because it was Freud who put forward this notion, this idea that man once thought of himself as center of the universe, and after Copernicus discovered this was not so. And then man thought himself as center of his own world and discovered this was not so. Man will discover that man thought he was center of his own mind, and will soon discover that this is not so. Why? Because the argument is that the subconscious is actually at the center of your mind, your fundamental drives, all of those things are what's driving your ego, your superego, and your id. The combination of these two other levels of the subconscious mind are really determining how your ego functions, and you're not really even in control of that, right? So this introduction of this, one of these days we're going to talk about how much of a fraud all of Freud was. And I know what I just did there. Yeah, boss. I know what I just did there. So one day we'll talk about the fraud of Freud. We will do this one of these days. We're going to kick it. But never mind how much cocaine the guy was doing. We will kick it one of these days. And ketamine. Like ketamine. How are you taking psychological advice from a guy who's taking horse tranquilizers? Fam, ketamine. Horse tranquilizers. And you're taking psychological advice from a guy who's higher than a horse.
Wow, and
like, are you nuts?
He's
but never mind.
Women.
We'll get into that later.
Like...
Fam, we will get into this. Listen, let me just tell you this side note, just a little side note on Sigmund Freud, just so y'all know. If anybody ever feels like it, pick up the book, The Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud. It was his second ever major book in the field of psychoanalysis. And in the course of that text, what he does is analyze a particular case study. Everybody look this case study up and see if I'm lying to you. The case study is of a woman called Anna O. It's one of his first ever case studies. He doesn't give her surname for the purposes of anonymity, or as Trump would say, anonymous, really anonymous. But in any case, I don't know, but he does. So the point is, he calls her Anna O. I don't know if Anna is even her real name, but he calls her Anna O. And Anna O has this particular issue, right? And Anna's issue is that she can't smell anything except burnt cookies. That's all she can smell. Burnt cookies or burnt muffins, something, right? So burnt baked goods, basically. She's completely lost her sense of smell with the exception of burnt baked goods. So Sigmund Freud takes her through this 6-month-long fucking process of deep introverted psychoanalysis and trying to figure out her needs and her desires and her wants, and maybe you were trying to hump this dude, and really what's going on is you were mad at your mother, and hold on, lose my voice. Crazy.
I lost connection and you lost your voice.
Look what Freud does to you. So so he starts taking her through this whole process, right? And he finds that through a process of a combination of hypnosis and the talking cure, he called it the psychoanalytic conversation, he discovers that really what was going on was that this woman was feeling guilty because she had developed an attraction for the man of the house who was married, and she was the maid. And she developed an attraction for him. And the moment of her attraction had become public knowledge when she had accidentally burnt the cookies in the oven because she was busy staring at my man out the window. So her guilt was such that it's locked into her head that all she can smell now is burnt cookies. So after 6 months or so of deep psychoanalysis, Freud says, I figured it out. Your problem is you were trying to hump the guy who hires you. That's your problem. And we can solve this. But, and I implore everybody, this is why academia is fucking important. I implore everybody, please, for the love of God, read his footnotes. If you read his footnotes, he says that the cure, that is to say, the discovery of what was the source of her problems, and then the relief from that problem, the return to her ability to smell things, coincided not just with this psychoanalytic revelation about her trying to hump the guy who owns the building. It coincided with this Latin phrase that he uses in his footnotes, where he says to her, they attempted an additional medical procedure. Want to know what the medical procedure was?
No.
Want to know what the medical procedure was? Now you want me to tell you? Want me to tell you the medical procedure? Bearing in mind, this is like early 20th century Victorian Europe. So imagine. You want me to tell you what the medical procedure was? In Latin. So nobody knows what the fuck he's talking about. You know what he says he did? He asked her to wash her fucking nose. Wash it. Bitch, wash it. I am not making this up. I have not. Go read this shit. He wrote it himself. It's in the fucking footnotes. He just put it in Latin.
That's what you philosophers
translate
do.
the Latin. He asked
in Latin, and then we're all like, oh.
No, we don't. No, we don't. That's what you psychoanalytic motherfuckers do. I'm telling you what the Latin means. Listen, you know how, and then you know the joke. Yes, that's what we do. Invent completely new ideas. That's my shit. But no. You know the joke of it is, think about it. You know why he asked her to wash her? Just put two and two together. You know why she lost her sense of smell and all she can smell now is burnt cookies? Because when she burned the cookies, she went straight back to the oven, opened the old ass 1910 oven up, and got nothing but soot up her nose.
Oh lordy, this is so silly.
Her nose is now filled with the burned particles of cookies, and now she's running around saying, all I can smell is cookies, and they go through this 6-month-long process to find out she's trying to hump a guy when it's because you haven't washed your fucking face in 6 months. You dirty motherfucker.
Hey, this is not about
you dirty 1980 20. Bam. No, it's not about Anna O. It's about Europeans in like 1910. Ain't no one washing.
That's true. No, that's true.
Nobody washed shit. And I'm like, how did you go 6 months without washing your nose out?
That's true.
You went 6 months. You had to wait for a psychoanalyst to tell you to wash your nose out. Seriously. But that's a digression. That's my point. In any case, listen, digression. We're talking about Sigmund Freud here. I know what we get, but what I'm trying to say is it's with Freud that you get this introduction of the concept of the subconscious, right? And this is part of the way he introduces it. As this develops over time, that concept of the subconscious, that's to say, that concept of this like deeper sense of self that's really controlling your ego that you don't even know is really there, that concept develops over time, as naturally would happen, right? And we talked a little bit about Edward Bernays and how Bernays implements the psychoanalytic tools and implements psychoanalytic concepts in shifting the United States and the West at large from a needs-based to a wants-based economy, and how he successfully achieved this using psychoanalytic techniques. By the time we arrive at 1968 in the United States plus in Europe, by the time we get to this period of history, there have been attempted revolutions. As I mentioned previously, there have been attempted revolutions in the United States, in Europe, let's say Germany, France, the United Kingdom. The populations were losing their shit. Like everybody was infuriated at capitalism, and don't forget the wars that were coming as a consequence of it, Vietnam and what have you. So everybody was losing their shit, people protesting left, right, and center, people trying to kind of like change the system. Those revolutions failed miserably, right? They were put down with force, like they were aggressively put down by the state. People were shot. There were students famously shot in the United States in protests. Never mind what people did, what the state did to black and brown people the whole way through the 1900s. Never mind that. But it didn't work, basically. The attempts at revolutions failed. The consequence of that failure was this coincidence of these phenomena occurring simultaneously in the United States, namely the development of the psychoanalytic method alongside this kind of need for social change. The failure with respect to social change was resolved by psychoanalysis. And what psychoanalysts, opportunistic psychoanalysts, and I mean this sincerely, what opportunistic psychoanalysts did with particular respect to Anna Freud as well, who's Sigmund Freud's daughter. I'll tell you one day how fucked up Anna Freud was. But Anna Freud, who pushed this whole idea in the United States in particular, but this coincidence of these two phenomena, let's say psychoanalysis and the failure of these 60s revolutions, meant that psychoanalysis resolved the problem. So what they said was, the famous kind of like motto, or the famous idea after 1968 and after these failed revolutions, was that what we need to do is change ourselves internally. We need to figure out who we are as people and have a revolution of the mind. And if we all do this in large enough numbers, a revolution will come. It's a revolution of the mind. The result of that generation on generation on generation on generation. I don't know how motherfuckers always forget that generations are related. It's like really dumb to me. But your parents' parents were those people who failed those revolutions. So your parents' parents are those people who sat there and one day told themselves they need to change themselves internally in order to have a revolution. So they raised children along those concepts, who then raised children along those concepts, who raised you. So it's with the movement of time and with that idea as at the root, you can see how you've ended up where you've ended up, which is to say that what we've done now is what the right wing likes to call cultural Marxism. And they're not wrong on this. They're really not wrong on this. There's this kind of cultural leftist thinking, which is to say that everybody seems compelled to be like correct, you know, PC or correct in their own minds. That I have to be the correct self, I have to be the right self. And then attached to that is this absence of spiritualism. So you get this like, so what is myself and who am I really and who should I be and what is my sense of individuality and blah, 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 blah. Now, in the best case scenario, you're a compassionate dualist, you're a compassionate self person, whatever, individualist. And in those cases, you still fuck up. In the worst case scenario, you're a non-compassionate, Ayn Randish type individualist, and then you fuck the world up, which is something else entirely. But we're gonna get to this. We're gonna get to this. Don't worry. No, relax. Your green looks nice. I like what you're doing. Listen, let me turn this back so there's no debate. I like the green. I like the flex. You know, I see what you're doing. I see what you're trying. But you ain't winning, fam. Like, this ain't gonna happen. I'm just telling you. So, listen. Let me tell you. Let me tell you how this fucked up, right? So we get this development of the sense of self, right? Cool. There's in the best case scenario, as I say, it gets compassionate, right? And in those cases, it still ends up being stupid. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I was in New York a while ago, right? Story time, fam. Yo, story time.
It's a story time.
Yo, story time. Story time. Yo, listen. All right, check it. All right, chill. Don't get too hype. Listen, story time. So, no, I was in New York. I've been everywhere. I've lived in all kinds of spots. I was living in New York for like, I don't know, mad months and whatever else. So while I was there, I was seeing people's what have you, getting to know people. Went out one night, went to some friend's house, like a friend of a friend. We went to this person's house. I was being introduced. So obviously I got to be mad polite, right? Like, because I'm being introduced and I'm not trying to show anybody up. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't really even speak the same language as these motherfuckers. Like, American is just a different thing. Like, it's a whole different thing.
I mean, fair.
Bruh, we'll have a conversation about it one day, about the difference between them and us. No, it's a different thing. But in any case, so the point is, it's a whole different kind of language. So I was there. I was out in NYC. Yeah, NYC. Yo, stand up NYC. I was at all the boroughs, fam. So I was at, in fact, pick up the PX while we here, by the way. Like, just saying. But the point is, I'm just saying, I have to. I've got loyalties. I have to. I'm required. I'm obligated by law now. Twice over. Yeah, you know what I mean? True. Like, I have to. So in any case, we'll get into this later. The point is, so I was out in the US. I'm visiting people, right? So I'm chilling. They take me over to this friend's house. We go to this place. So I'm chilling in their place. And I'm like trying to be polite, like trying to not get too rowdy like I do. Because, like, you know, just being introduced and whatnot. Cool. They introduced me to this one Brit. Now, I should say, let's just give you context, right? The room is full of, like, black and brown people. With the exception of one dude. With the exception of one dude, right? There's one white dude. Cool. No beef. Nobody's got issue. The white dude is dating one of the brown ladies. So, you know, whatever. Like, they've been dating for a minute and he's friendly and no one's got any beef with my man. So it's cool. So we chilling, we talking. But it turns out that my man knows something about literature. So I'm like, oh, cool, yeah. And he gets introduced to me as a philosopher and somebody who did literature for his bachelor's. Yeah. I'm just, 2 degrees. What? Yeah, I'm just saying. But the point is, really it's 3 degrees because it was 2 in philosophy and 1 in English lit. But I'm just saying. The point is, so I get introduced to him. Yeah, I get introduced to him this way, and they, like, you know, somebody says to me that he's interested in philosophy and he wants to read some books, and then they told him in the introduction, oh, he's written a book and maybe you want to talk to him. So I'm like, all right, cool. I don't really want to have this conversation, but, you know, never mind. So we start having this conversation about philosophy and books and what have you. And he asked me about my opinion of my book. This was a mistake because you're the only white guy in the room, and most of my book is about how Western philosophy is shit. So you don't want to push this button too hard, right? You don't really want to do that. But my man keeps saying, yo, what's in your book? What's it really about? Nah, tell me, I'm mad interested. I'm like, no, you're really not interested. I'm about to shit on your whole life. You don't want to know. But I'm like, all right, cool. Why are you making me do this to you? But okay, cool. So I start explaining it to him. Now, he could have been a good person and like diffused the situation and been like, hey, no, I see your point, and just moved on. Just move on with the conversation. No. But no, my man did what I expected my man to do. And he was like, yeah, that's really interesting, but I don't know if I agree. I'm like, fam. No one asked. I already wrote and published the book. Nobody asked your opinion, fam. You weren't in the exam hall. You weren't peer reviewing nothing. Nobody asked if you fucking agree. I published the book. Get out my face. I don't need you to agree. But he was like, yeah, I don't know if I agree. He was like, all right, cool. So here's me trying to be polite and diffuse the situation. I was like, please, tell me more. So then my man gets into this whole bullshit, this whole spiel about like how, listen, I feel like, you know, what Western philosophy and Western literature is doing is something really interesting because it's this kind of experiment in what he called rugged individualism, man.
Oh, what do you have to go and do that for?
And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean, bro? What do you mean? What does that even mean? So then he goes, no, listen, it's an experiment in rugged individualism. And what that really means is like what we're trying to do in the US, you don't really understand it because like, you know, you're European. I'm like, first of all, I'm brown, I'm not European. Second of all, fuck you. Third of all, I keep talking. He says, what we're doing in the US is, you know, this experiment in individualism. And what that means is like, you're trying to rediscover concepts on your own terms in today's world, man, you know? And that's different to the way concepts were like 2,000 years ago, man. You know what I mean? So like, yeah. Yo. Yo.
Is this how we're starting? With some idiot misunderstanding anything and everything?
I could think of another idiot misunderstanding anything and everything. I could think of another idiot misunderstanding anything and everything. I could think, name starts with an A, ends with a D. She definitely a dick. I could think of an idiot. She definitely a dick.
Definitely.
Fam, so I lost my shit. As you might expect. And typically enough, I got loud enough that the entire room heard, so now it turned into a fucking forum. I was like, shit. I'm running open seminars now everywhere, wherever I go. All right, let's do it. So I start airing my man out. And what I said to him was, here's my whole fucking problem with that concept of rugged individualism. And insofar as you want to associate that with the United States, have at it, fam. I don't feel like everybody in the US feels that way, but if you want to do that, have at it. So we can shit on the whole US if you want to. But my beef with this whole concept of rugged individualism is what it basically means is it's like you're repackaging being stupid. That's what you're telling me. What you're telling me is there's been 14,000 years of civilized human recorded history. And what you're going to say is, don't need to read it. I'm going to try and figure it out myself from here. All right, you're an idiot. You're an idion. You're an idiot. I don't tell you. You know the bread that gets the IKEA kind of like table or the IKEA bookshelf, but says to themselves, I don't need to read the manual, bro, because you know me, I got this, homie, and then fucks it up.
Yeah.
That's them. That's them. What I'm saying is concepts like the I, concepts like the self, concepts like individuality, concepts like selfhood have already been resolved. This is not fucking new. This is 4,000 years old. My issue is that every single time somebody, and I mean this in the local sense, every time we refer to a sense of I, implicit in that reference is divorcing yourself from the entire context of all of human fucking history. You kind of have to. Because in order to warrant looking at yourself, yourself has to in some meaningful way be distinguishable from the rest of human history. And let me make this abundantly clear. Yourself is in no meaningful way different from the rest of human history. In no meaningful way. In some ways, definitely. Like, I'm pretty sure in the course of human history, beards haven't been this dry. Oh, I did it!
Oh my God.
Oh, I did it! Oh, I did it! Oh, I did it! You didn't even see that coming.
For the record,
you didn't even see that coming. I did it.
You and your bloody vid.
No, but here's my point. What I mean is, yes, of course, there are some differences between selves. Of course, there are. Like I say, the way you appear, the way you sound, the particularities of the context and the circumstances of your existence, the phenomena of you, sure, that's unique. That's unique to you. But all we're observing in so doing, in so saying, is that there are dualities. That's all you're observing, is that there is a uniqueness. You're not, so, like, I feel like you ought to observe this when you were 8 years old and moved on with your fucking life.
Like,
you spent your whole life going, yeah, but I'm different.
But I still feel like this is not what I thought. I mean, I get the link between, you know, a sense.
I know. I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
So for me, I thought this was about
That's cool, I got you.
individualism, not necessarily individuality, or I think I'm important. I absolutely do not believe I'm important. Absolutely. But a sense of individualism?
Yeah. Kick it. I'm with you. Keep going. Nah, it's sense of individualism, man. Keep going.
Real, right? Shall I do it? Shall I do, like, I'll give you the introduction or why I think where this whole thing came from?
Oh, yeah, no, I want you to. Here's okay, look. Let me just say this. I think you're right. I'm setting the conversation up at a bit of a slant, right? Of course. So I think you're right. So you go ahead. You introduce the whole thing the way you read it, with particular respect to Ayn Rand, right? With particular respect to Ayn Rand, because that's your thing. Hold up. While we're doing this, listen, I got to acknowledge this. We have to acknowledge this because the inspiration for the lineup just joined the chat. They're like, yo, what's up? One love, man. Inspiration. I just got.
Yeah, like,
it needs to be. Hey, we all need to big up my man.
Culture.
We all need to salute. We all need to big up my man. Anyway, so hey, you have to have a little respect, man. So what I'm saying is, so you go ahead. You kick it on your terms. I agree with you. You set it up because I've slanted the conversation. So you set it up on your terms. You kick it. Tell me. What's this sense of individualism? Yeah.
To begin with, listen, it's not like I came into the world thinking that I matter, or that, you know, individualism. I didn't come up with these ideas, right? So it happened that I picked up this book, which was Ayn Rand by sheer accident, called The Fountainhead. And so the general story is about this guy called Seth.
Wait, what's it called?
The Fountainhead.
What's it called? No. What's it called? What's it called?
Fountainhead. Mate, focus.
Hey, go ahead. No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No,
seriously,
So this is like where our genuine conversation really, I genuinely want to have this conversation with you. In the sense, so the book is about this guy called Howard Roark, right? And the reason, and the basic outline is he's an architect, or he's just studied to be an architect, and he has a vision for how buildings should be built. Okay. And he's sick and tired of the norm, of the people doing classical stuff, of repeating stuff over and over again, of making it, you know, without understanding what it's telling you it wants to be, you know? Like a sculptor who looks at a piece of rock and knows what ought to come out of it, you know? So the story is really just about him. And the reason why it appealed to me, this is where individualism comes in, is at no point is he egotistical. At no point is he like matter. That's not the essence of the story. The essence, to me, as I read it, the essence of the story is the singular drive and belief of that person, right? I believe I should do something this way and it will be done this way. Like, and what's, for me, what is so wrong with that? We've had conversations, you and I, about, because we're Arab, you know, and we've got Quran, there's a right way of doing something. And, you know, as an operations person.
All right, careful with the words you're using, fam. Careful with the words. We are on live. The CIA is listening. Be careful with the words you're using. All right, cool.
The sense of individualism as opposed to collectivism. Yeah, isn't that the opposite of it? The sense of knowing that what you're doing has value. That you should follow what you believe, because I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have Heideggers. We wouldn't have great artists. We wouldn't have Kokoschkas. We wouldn't have great poets. We wouldn't have great musicians if everybody just did what everybody else does. And for me, that is the essence, and that's why I like this story, and that's why we're having this conversation.
So
yeah,
That was cool. I'm with you. That was
All right, so now
interesting.
it begins, does it?
Alright, fam.
Let's
Should we do this? You really want to do this? You want to do
Let's
this?
do
We can do this. We get messy. All right, let's do this. So, okay, listen. I don't want this to become. I kind of do want this to become a seminar about shitting on Ayn Rand. I kind of do, because fuck Ayn Rand. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But I feel like for your sake, I want us to divorce two things. For your sakes, right? In defense of your position. Nah, look, I'm being generous. In defense of your position, I want us to divorce something. Which is to say, I want us to divorce her from her writing.
I completely agree.
I feel like that's fair.
Agree.
Because
can I just add, like, this is
because
you know
as well as I know.
Just one thing. I read her introduction. I'd never read it. Like, I just read the book, but in her introduction, she says, "This is the motive and purpose of my writing: the projection of an ideal man, the portrayal of a moral idea as my ultimate literally goal in itself, to which any didactic, intellectual, core values contained in a novel are only the means." She says, continues, and I'll stop after this. "Let me stress this. My purpose is not the philosophical enlightenment of my readers. My purpose, first cause and prime mover, is a portrayal of Howard Roark as an end in himself." And so, yes, I agree. I don't care about Ayn Rand. I fell in love with that character and his drive for what he believed had to be done.
As a fucking... Hold on. As an end in himself is hilarious. That's hilarious. Just as a sentence, as an end in himself. Fam, you know you have a mother. You have a fucking mother, you cocky son of a bitch. How are you walking around here as an end in yourself? You were produced by another human being.
That, but it's
Get the fuck over yourself.
Going,
I'm an end in myself.
Be, like, I get it. Like, I'm not walking around not aware of my mom and not aware of the people around me. What I do like is this sense of knowing what needs to be done and just getting it done. Not listening to the idiots, not following the common herd. Yeah. I mean, if we followed it, this is what Nietzsche is about. The whole Ubermensch.
It's not, but hold on, let me just be... Okay, but let me just make one point before we get into this, before we really get into the Ayn Rand thing. Let me be clear about one thing. This whole idea of not wanting to be part of the herd, Nietzsche fucking hates that shit. And for a very simple reason. Because everybody in the herd doesn't want to be part of the herd. That's what the fucking herd is about.
Sure.
That's the herd. The herd is a whole bunch of idiots running around going, yeah, but I want to follow what I want, and I need to be an individual me. All of you say the same dumb shit. That's the herd. That is the herd. Now you just got a member of the herd going, no, I'm louder than the rest of them, but really look at me, Ayn fucking Rand. It's the, you're all saying it.
That's a difference.
Right, and she wrote it. She ain't do it. Yeah, see the difference? She said it. She didn't do shit.
This is where we
There's
separate,
a difference.
Like, Ayn Rand out the picture.
That's what I'm saying. I want to cut her out personally, because as a person, I think we both agree. I don't want us to have any misgivings about your opinions here. As a person, we both agree she's a piece of shit.
Absolutely.
As a person. And just so we're clear, I have no problem with observing that about the people that I think are meaningful. Like, Heidegger as a person is a piece of shit. Like, as a human being, he was a horrible person.
He was.
Like, as a person,
yeah,
I have no problem with that. Ayn Rand was the same way. As a person, Ayn Rand was a terrible fucking human being. Ayn Rand, we're talking about a person who spoke about, she called homosexuals immoral and disgusting. We're talking about a woman who referred to Arabs as uncivilized dogs, who talked about the Yom Kippur War as the struggle of civilized men to cleanse the earth of uncivilized animals. As, like, fam, she's a disgusting fucking human being. Like, as a person, she's grotesque. Like, she's horrible. And my argument is this, but here's my argument. We can divorce the two, and I want to. Like, I want to say that who Ayn Rand is as a person has got, like, we can divorce that from her theories and her what have you. But insofar as we take her at her word, and the word that you just read, if we take her at her word, she would say that she is the walking embodiment of the philosophy that she is trying to depict. She would say this. She would say that her writings and her expressions and her behaviors are all in aid of a philosophical position that she thinks can be realized. She hated what she called mysticism. So she hated anything to do with religion or an abstract sense of self. She hated mysticism. She hated excesses of I forgot the other one, the opposite end of it. She didn't like any of that stuff. For her, it was about living and breathing exactly what you're saying, living and breathing that self that you think that you ought to be. It was a living, breathing moral. Like, and in that respect, I understand what she's trying to do, because other philosophers have attempted to do similar things. So it's a bad hack job, but like I see what she's trying to achieve here. So the bridge I want us to cross here is, while we can separate her character, her racism and homophobia and whatever else, we can separate her character from her work. We cannot, without doing a disservice to her and what we're talking about, ignore the fact that she felt that her behavior was an embodiment of her philosophy. We have got to accept at least that. Otherwise, we're talking about like whatever we want. It's just air now.
Sure, I mean, I'm willing to accept it. Like, short of, you know, I'm like, to be quite frank, I don't know much about her, and I think I've said as much to you. The whole purpose of this original conversations, I read this book. If you remember back in the day, right? I read this book. You saw the title, you saw the author, and you lost it. And at the time, I was like, "What's the big deal? I don't even know who this is," right? Yeah. And then the whole conversation started. But for me, to this day, I still stand by that character because I feel empathetic. I feel like my life has been the same. Like, I've constantly been told what to do. And I'm like, but no, that's not how we do things. Why, you know, there's a right way of doing things and there's a wrong way of doing things. And I, you know, anyway.
You ever heard of the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy? All right, cool. So for those who don't know, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is a really, really, really cool resource. It's free. It's publicly available. You can just use it whenever you want, type in whatever you want, and it's a really useful resource. It's very, very, very dense. There's a lot of information, but if you have the patience and the wherewithal, it's worth going through. But in any case, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is what it sounds like. It's an American encyclopedia of philosophers and their views, right? They have almost everybody in there. You type their name and it gives you like a whole fucking biography on their whole lives, which is pretty cool. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy has a quote about Ayn Rand. I want us to bear in mind what you just said. And then they say, the general reader who responds positively to Rand's work finds, for the first time, a moral justification pursuing a life of their own and a liberation from unearned guilt.
Unearned guilt. I don't know.
Like this idea that, you know, you are burdened. The idea, what they mean by that is the idea that what she says is the idea that you are burdened by society, or you're burdened by your community, or you're burdened by whoever to behave a certain way or to be a certain way, and that instead you ought to be the self that you want to be, whatever that means and what have you. So it's that guilt of trying to of cutting off or casting off the requirements of society. Yeah, that's the guilt that she wants to be rid of. You see what I'm saying? And she's saying that, right. So what I want to observe first and foremost is that your reading or your interpretation of Ayn Rand, one, is not unpopular. It's very popular. Two, the way you've reflected on Roark and your reaction to him, again, is popular. It's the popular conception of people who have positively read Ayn Rand's work. That's how people generally think of Roark, and that's how people generally think of what have you. And I would argue that there is a very, very good reason for this, because whenever somebody writes anything, whenever somebody creates anything that makes you feel better about being you, it's going to sell. That's going to work. That's always going to. When is that not going to work?
Yeah, sure.
Why would that not work? If I wrote, I'll put it like this. I know a guy, right? I don't want to say any names here because I don't want to air anybody out, but I know somebody who wanted to create a platform similar to this one, similar to this idea. Just so y'all know, this is like, we think about this kind of shit, similar to this platform, but what this person wanted to do was to set it up to offer what he called philosophical counseling. And the idea behind philosophical counseling was that you would offer people some kind of like psychoanalytic bit part way of selling philosophical ideas as resolving your life's problems, right? And it would work. Why? Because the idea, the ultimate goal, is to make the person who you're talking to feel good about themselves. You want them to come away from it feeling more secure, more confident, feel more good about themselves, feel more themselves. How is that not going to sell? That's going to sell like fucking hotcakes. Like, it's going to sell like cocaine. That's crack, man. Like, that's crack. You tell a person ways to feel good about who they are, that's crack. That works. Why wouldn't that sell? But what I'm saying is the problem with it, the problem with that concept is it's incredibly dangerous. Used correctly, it's usually wrong. And used incorrectly, it's horrendously dangerous. Why? Because what I'm trying to get at is that sense of self that's being restored was never lost. Like you never needed it restored. You were always an individual whole. That was the case. It was given. So whenever a person feels like I'm not being true to myself, or I'm not being the self I want to be, or I'm burdened by my society to be a certain way, or what have you, whenever those feelings arise, the question is not to then be distracted from your way and say, oh no, am I doing the wrong thing, or what have you. It's to interpret that in line with your way. Why am I feeling this right now? What does it tell me about myself and what I've been doing about myself that this is what's coming up right now? Not like I need to cast myself and be proud of myself and be an individual person. Motherfucker, that's what you were doing. Nobody's thinking like you. Nobody. I can guarantee you that. 1000%. It's the nature of fucking causality. Like, that's how things work. Like, I don't know if we don't know this, but that's, you know, duality. That's what that is. So your thoughts will always be unique to you, and they will always speak to your path, and they will always speak to your sense of self, and they will never be the consequence, purely the consequence of social burdens. Never. They're always going to be your thoughts. The way you manage and handle that is on you. Like, ultimately, the way you put your head down at night and how you wake up the next morning is on you, fam. Like, that's never not the case. It's always the case. Reinforcing that that's the case it's dangerous. And what I'm saying is, done correctly, there's a way to do it. So Nietzsche, we talked about it last week. I like what Nietzsche's doing. I still think that he's making mistakes, but I like what he's trying to do. And he's trying to do the same thing that Ayn Rand did. It's the same project. Although she won't admit it because she's a... Yeah, forgive me. I should say that. Forgive me. I said that the wrong way around. But yeah, because she just did some really bad hack job of what he was trying to do. But what the point is, the argument I'm trying to make is Aristotle did the same thing. Ayn Rand says that she acknowledges Aristotle as her sole philosophical influence. And she says the rest of my work was my own. I feel like that's telling. It kind of speaks to my point, and I'll explain it in a minute, that she says that her whole of her philosophical endeavor is attributable exclusively to herself, and a little bit of Aristotle tells me that you don't know shit. Sounds a lot like that guy beforehand who said it's, you know, rugged individualism. All right, so you read nobody but fucking Aristotle? Well done. Like, you know, there's like 2,500 years since him. Never mind. But in any case, I think it speaks to something, and we'll look at it in a second. The point is that she says that her whole philosophical endeavor is inspired purely by Aristotle. That inspiration in and of itself is not incorrect, because Aristotle proposed a very similar formulation. The difference was in that realization of the risk of duality. Aristotle knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. Ayn Rand didn't. That's the difference. That's what I'm trying to say, is that what she's doing is dangerous. There's a reason why you find yourself in bad company. Like, with the other people who support what Ayn Rand is doing, or the other people who support that kind of individualism, are people like Paul Ryan and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and psychopaths. Like, there's a reason that's the case, because the way she's doing it is like, dangerous. It's dangerous. The way Aristotle did it.
That I'm not the Paul Ryans of this world, and I'm not the Alan Greenspans of this world. For me, the reading was a sense of relief.
Yeah.
You know, the pressures of society, do this, do that, be this, be that, right? And there's a sense where you're like, wait, hang on. I know I live this life, or I know what I ought to do. And the sense of it, the book gave me a sense of relief, right? And maybe that's what you're saying when it's done right.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying, when it's done correctly. And I'll explain exactly how it's done correctly in the second part. We'll come to the conclusions and what have you in the second part when we come back. In fact, we can come back right now. But that's when it's done correctly, this tension and this issue doesn't come up. When it's done correctly, you don't end up with Paul Ryans and Rand Pauls. When it's done correctly, you don't end up with the risk of misapplying the concept. When it's done correctly, what resolves itself is not the continual burden of maintaining a sense of self, but the relief from a maintenance of your sense of self, in the understanding that it's given to you.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I welcome that.
Your uniqueness, your path, your individuality was fucking given to you before Ayn Rand reminded you. It was already yours. It stinks like an ungrateful person receiving a gift. Somebody gives you a gift, you snatch it out of their hands and go, mine. Yeah, I know. I was given it. I know. I'm giving it to you. No, but it's mine. I know it's fucking yours. It had your name on it. What do you get so excited about? Yeah, but it's mine. Mine. Me. All right, relax. So what I'm saying is that I agree with you in everything you're saying, but what I want to do is take her at her word. And in taking her at her word, that is to say, in taking the characters of Roark at his word, and taking the in the concept of what she calls objectivism, but objectivism at its word, her philosophical concept, and what she calls her moral concept, which is, and I swear to God, this is her phrasing, not mine, ethical egoism. Ethical ego. I've never ever heard a bigger kind of oxymoron in my entire life, but that's fine. Ethical egoism, we can live with that. I don't even know what that means. Like, I looked it up. I spent hours reading into this. It doesn't mean anything, but fine. What she argues, her point, is exactly what you said beforehand. It's kind of, it's the quote that you gave from her. Is almost exactly right. She says the concept, her objectivism, is the concept of man as a heroic being with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity and reason as his only absolute. Great. It sounds profound. It sounds great. And I don't think that anybody would disagree. That's part of my problem. I don't think anybody would disagree because you're just stating the obvious. It's like, you know what you should do with your life? Be your life. Yes, fuck it, helpful. Bet, you dick. Mad helpful. But all right, the real issue with this is her Aristotelian influence. Because this is a quote. It's almost a quote. She's almost ripped this right out of Aristotle. Like, the only way she gets away with it is the fact that Aristotle was Greek and it would have had to have some translation. But this is almost directly out of Aristotle. The problem is I've read them, so I know. Like, I'm not stupid. I can tell. You see what I'm saying? It's taken from that.
Okay.
But when Aristotle proposed the same formulation, the same concept, he had it framed in this larger idea of what he called eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is this concept of the pursuit of happiness, as it were, the pursuit of life in the pursuit of happiness. The problem is the misinterpretation and the mistranslation of the word happiness from the ancient Greek to the fucking modern bullshit, post-psychoanalytic, post-1968 failed revolutions that have a real sense of self-focused group society. Fuck, it's a lot of words. What I mean is,
I'm amazed you spot that.
What he meant by, I'm only warming up, fam. I can go for another 2 hours. What he meant by happiness was a closer definition. A closer definition in the modern English is not like happiness, as it were, right? But a closer definition in the modern English is more like flourishing. What he meant by happiness is flourishing. And what he meant by flourishing is very, very, very particular to the environment in which one flourishes. Aristotle was very clear about this. Like, his problem with Plato and Socrates was that he felt that they weren't paying enough attention to the environment in front of them. Heidegger agrees with Aristotle on this point. Heidegger just interprets him even further in that direction. But the point is that for Aristotle, it had very much to do with your direct environment. It wasn't your sense of self and your sense of flourishing as opposed to or independent of or abstracted from the fucking environment. Like, I need to get what I need to get my way because I'm independent from the herd. Fam, shut up. Shut up with you in the herd. What I mean is, for him, the environment was that's your fertilizer. That's your fucking soil. How did you think you were growing? Where are you flourishing from? You dick. That's what I mean when I say, how do you walk around here calling yourself and ending yourself and forget that you have a mother? I don't mean it in the literal, of course I mean it in the literal sense, you literally have a mother, but I mean it in the broader sense, which is to say that, literally speaking, the oxygen you breathe is dependent on the trees and the leaves around you, fam. Literally. Literally speaking, there is a symbiotic relationship between the carbon dioxide you push back out that the trees pump in and then pump out oxygen for you to breathe. You're sharing this environment 24 fucking hours a day, breathing. They're your lungs, fam. They're your lungs.
Yeah, trees.
But you want to walk around. Fam, don't be. You don't have no brothers and sisters.
No. Of course.
You ain't got no like siblings.
Devil's advocate here. I'm not.
No, but what I mean, this is what I'm saying.
We live utterly alone.
No, but she is. That emphasis on individualism, that emphasis on egoistic, ethical egoism, that emphasis on me achieving my ends, no matter what the architecture around me says that I should do, or gonna do whatever else. Like, I'm down. Like, do that thing. But that's what you were gonna do. flourishing yourself, for Aristotle, the idea is that your sense of self was already given. Aristotle argued that there was something strange in the fact that, and Heidegger developed this idea, that there's something strange in the fact that each individual human being has this dual tension. This is old, fam. It's boring for me to even talk about. It's just so fucking disappointing that she doesn't know this and she claims Aristotle was her influence. This is old. For him, human beings exist in this dual tension. The dual tension is very, very simple. It's in the mind, which is to say that you are aware of all things and yet you think of yourself as different.
Yeah, okay.
That is to say, you have the capacity, you and all other human beings, every other human being you talk to, whenever you say all things or beings to any other human being, they know exactly what you mean. As a human being, you walk around with this capacity to conceive of totality, all things. And yet, you walk around conceiving it from this individuated point of view. Right? From an individuated point of view, you see the totality of things. From here, from this, all. Cool. The problem is for Aristotle is reconciling these things. Aristotle says that it's important that we because they're not in contradiction. There is a reason that they coexist. The concern is, for him, it was obvious that that tension is an illusion. The feeling that my sense of self and my sense of my relationship to the world can often be in tension, or my ability to see a herd and then my ability to think of myself as different from it can often be in tension. His whole premise, the implications of the whole premise, is that that tension is illusory. Why? Because you're always seeing things from your point of view. You were never seeing it from anywhere else. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're having this whole problem of the herd from your point of view in the herd. What are you talking about? Like,
okay, fair.
It's
okay,
always
I accept that.
Right. So the requirement then is to reconcile the difference in your mind, not in reality. You are required to reconcile the difference in your mind insofar as one exists, because in so doing, you will understand the fucking fertilizer that produces your stupid thoughts in the first place. That's to say, you understand the function of your purpose here and thus flourish. You see my point?
I understand.
You become more yourself, more authentically yourself, the deeper rooted you are in the world, not the more fucking yourself you are from it. You see my point? It's your rootedness in the world that gives you your sense of self in the first place. It was never yours. I don't know where this comes from. Like this insanity that I have a sense of self that's mine. Fam, you were born at some point and can't remember shit before you had your first object permanence memory. Because for that whole period of time, you were busy shitting on yourself and picking your nose. Suddenly you develop a sense of self and it becomes the most important thing for you to develop for the rest of your life. Would you get the fuck over it? Like, no. It's
I
given to
genuinely
you.
love to spend more time, like you explaining how it goes about reconciling these two. Because you can't argue that this is prevalent in society, you know? It's no accident. It's, you know, the fact that I picked up an aim and went, oh, you know, I'm relieved of what my unearned guilt.
Yes.
And many people feel the same. This sense of wanting to escape, this sense of wanting, quote unquote, be themselves. So I would love to spend more time when we have it, you telling us how one reconciles this, so that once and for all.
Listen, how go it? Because we do most
the
things.
The answer is always in the Japanese. I love it.
Bruv, you know what I'm saying? It's a samurai style beard, you know what I mean? That's what it's about, fam.
It's true.
Like, if the samurai saw my beard, they know what's going on. They know exactly what time it is. The samurai see this shit, they start sharpening their sword. They know what time it is. I'm just saying. Quote, Hagakure, right? It says, because we do most things relying on our own sagacity, we become self-interested, turn our backs on reason, and things don't turn out well. It is, for example, like a large tree with many roots. One man's intelligence is like a tree that has been simply stuck in the ground. See the difference?
It's beautiful.
That's how you reconcile the fucking difference. You're a tree, you dick. Suck up the soil. You were always going to suck it up your way. You were always going to photosynthesize according to your terms. You were always going to flourish and bloom your own flowers. You are you. That you is a gift that was given. Your ability to see all things from this perspective is that miracle. That's that gift. For one to spend their entire time reinforcing their sense of self instead of paying attention to the totality of things that you are given to being able to see is the most ungrateful, the most self-serving, egoistic, nasty fucking act I can imagine a person doing. And it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that the consequence of people who follow that line tend to be those who reinforce laissez-faire capitalistic policies that say things like, we don't need the fucking NHS because, you know, you got to look after yourself out here, homie. If you ain't making something of yourself, then you ain't shit. Yo, get the fuck out of here. You didn't make yourself neither. Your mother gave birth to you too. Suck my fucking dick. Like, stop it. Stop it.
Okay.
Stop it.
I understand.
The things are reconciled in a very, very simplistic manner, which is to say, to understand the soil, the environment, the context in which you flourish, not your flourishing. The flower blooms by paying more attention to the sun, not fucking less. The tree grows by being deeper rooted, not shallower. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? This is not complicated.
Nietzsche says this: the higher up the tree goes, the deeper its roots.
Its roots! This is not complicated. Every motherfucker that saw a tree went, oh, okay. Except for Ayn Rand and her bitch ass.
I understand.
You see my point? That's why I'm saying it's dangerous. It's fucking dangerous. You cannot run around telling motherfuckers to be themselves. You're already myself. I'm myself. I was myself before you told me that. So now you're telling me to be myself. So now I have to construct a self that I've got to constantly pursue because it's possible that I'm not being myself. How do I ever know? You know how psychoanalysis works? You know how psychoanalysis works? Because how is the person who's being quote unquote cured ever supposed to know they're cured? If they're the one with the malady, you're never going to know. It's a scam.
Yeah.
Trap! Trap! Fucking trap! It's a scam, fam. Like, what is wrong with you people? You are already an individual. It was given to you before Freud, before fucking Ayn Rand, before anybody else told you to go and be your individual self. Would you stop fucking doing that shit? There's enough individual selves out here as it is. Like, I'm sick and tired of everybody's individual self. I don't give a fuck about you. Like, I don't know why you care, not you personally, but I don't know why anybody cares about themselves. I don't give a fuck about me. I certainly don't give a fuck about me. Like, I really don't. I do not walk around, I swear to God, I don't walk around all day long thinking, am I being my individual self? Or is this really an expression of me? Or am I expressing what the herd thinks? Fam, I'm doing what's required of me. And I'm doing it damn good. And I don't give a fuck whether it's herd product, or it's my product, or we are all mortal. We are all under the same earth, all meeting our same mortal lives, trying to figure out what all of this shit means. I cannot waste 5 minutes trying to figure out whether or not I'm being myself in the middle of that process. There's too much self as it is.
Okay, then I'll just add this then. It seems to me that what's required here is a sense of compassion, right? Because the feeling I have isn't necessarily, like, you're right, it's me. It's not like I walk around going, I'm so important. I'm not, I get it. The sense I have is, why can't I be left to do what I need to do? And it's because everybody is thinking that, right? So like at work, right? At work, constantly, constantly being told, do this. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how the way it should be done. Listen to me. And people don't. Yeah. They all have their individual selves and their egos. And then of course, then you read Howard Roark and you go, oh, I get it. And I guess, well, maybe what you're saying is not to say, reconcile with, it's not that I wasn't always myself, but also have compassion for those who are rallying around you incorrectly.
That's never a bad thing.
Rather than force the point with the ethical egoism of going, I must do what rather. Listen,
well, look. First and foremost, the conversation that we're having now is less a spiritual, philosophical one, and more a pragmatic question of how I navigate millions of egos, right? Like, how do I deal with so many egos all the time? Everybody trying to insist on what to do, when to do it. Like, that's a problem. And part of the solution is in what you're saying, which is to say that there's a level of, fam, I gotta be honest with you, I don't know how people don't do this more often, but there's a level of pity and a level of compassion that's attributable to those people who really walk around here feeling like they have to be important all day long, because that's a hard burden to carry. It's exhausting. Like, you're going to arrive at a certain point in your life and feel like you failed, fam. That's gonna happen. I hate to break it to you, but if you walk around here all fucking day long talking about the self that you're supposed to be, You won't blink one day. You will blink and wake up and be 65. God, like, hopefully you live that long, but you wake up, blink and be 65 one day and like, go, shit, I wasn't ever the self I was trying to be, because you've been chasing a fucking ghost your whole life. And you'll never know it. You would never have known it, because you've been negotiating with the ghost your entire. Let me make this real easy for you. Watch this. No, just watch this. No, watch. No, watch. Shit's about to get special. No, watch. No, watch. Shit's about to get special. Watch this. Now watch this.
Give it to me.
We're about to. Now hold up. We're about to go into story time 2. 2. Now watch this. 2.
Double whammy.
But there's a story of a man who comes to the law, L-A-W, the law. A man comes to the law. And when he arrives at the gates of the law, he finds a gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper tells him that, fam, you can try and come into the law if you want. You can try to gain entry, if you wish, into the law. But I'm warning you right now, I'm pretty powerful as a gatekeeper. And even if you manage to get past me, there's like 3 or 4 other gatekeepers. The last one, even I'm fucking terrified to look at. So if I were you, I don't know. But if you want to test it, be my guest. Test it. Cool. My man gets nervous. So what does my man do? My man sits there. My man sits there for mad years. My man sits there for mad years. My man sits there for mad years. Like, we spitting bars here. Like, if I had a beat behind me, this would be a rhythm. But in any case, this goes on. I'm just saying. It's like old grime. Like, the 1994 is coming out. It's like grime, like old UK noise. Yeah, I say. But in any case, so the point is, it's drum and bass type stuff, man. But the point is, so he sits there, and as he sits there, he tries to negotiate with my gatekeeper. And what he does is he says, listen, yo, how about I bribe you, fam? So he bribes him. Yo, how about I try to convince you, fam? He tries to convince him. He's like, yo, how about I try to schmooze you, fam? Tries to schmooze him. And every single time he does all of this, the gatekeeper says the same thing to my man, which is, fam, I'm only letting you do this just so you feel like you left no stone unturned. Like, I don't want you to feel like you didn't try everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel bad for you trying to do this. So, like, you know, I'm gonna just like entertain your requests just so you don't feel like you didn't try it. It's like, you know, I feel for you. All right, cool. After a while, my man starts losing his shit so far, he starts negotiating with the fucking fleas in the fur collar of the fucking gatekeeper. He's like, yo, can you talk to him? My man's for me, like, convince him to let me in. Mad years pass. Cool. My man gets mad. Oh, he's dying now. Now he's dying. He's still sitting there at the gate. But this question occurs to him, never occurred to him before, because my man's been too busy trying to negotiate his way into the fucking law. And the question that occurs to him is this. Cole looks up to the gatekeeper. He's like, yo, homie, come here. He's mad old, right? So like, yo, come down here, man. Come down here. Like, they want to talk to you. Let me just kick some questions to you one last time. Gatekeeper's like, fam, you are fucking insatiable. How many questions you got? But all right, cool. What's your question, man? Bet. So my man says, yo, come here, bro. As far as I understand it, everybody fucking wants entry into the law. It's the law. How come I'm the only one here? Gatekeeper looks down at my man. And goes, yeah, that's a good question. Because this gate was assigned to you, fam. This was yours. I'm going to close it now, though. I'm going to just let that sit. Just simmer. Just let that marinate in your minds and shit. Just let that sit. Where do you go for this kind of fucking information, homie? I'm just saying. God damn it. Listen. That's my point. You can spend your entire life sitting outside of the fucking world, sitting there trying to negotiate with yourself and your own entry into the world, whether or not you are yourself, or whether or not you're really being the self you should be, or whether or not you're reflecting the herd morality, or whether or not you're reflecting your independent, individual, authentic being, or you can walk the fuck in. Like, what are you doing? Would you live? Please, go live. No, but go do the thing. Do the thing. Like, please, go do the fucking thing. But am I doing it like me? Who cares? Do it. The question should be, and this is where ethics comes in. This is why, and I'll end here, but this is why ethical egoism is a nasty phrase. Because the question should always be not whether or not I am doing what I want to do. You're the one fucking doing it. You're the one doing it. Of course, that's what you want to do. The question should always be, am I doing what I'm doing correctly? That's the question.
I agree.
Do it correctly.
I agree.
You're worried about whether or not you're doing it as your real self. Do it fucking correctly. How about that?
I agree completely. Okay,
I don't know.
I agree
This is an
completely.
idea we might throw out here. I'm just throwing an idea out. I don't know. I'm just throwing an idea out. Maybe you want to do you correctly. You fucking... Really?
I agree.
No, but am I being me when I'm doing that? Fam, shut up. Do it correctly. Fam. So even you, and from here you can pull out a pragmatic concern. Look at the fire I'm spitting, mad bars. Even here you can pull out a pragmatic solution. So for the question as to how I resolve the problem with a whole bunch of egos in the office, or how I never get a whole bunch of egos generally speaking, you don't ask yourself whether or not I should be myself in this environment, or am I really being me, or does it somehow reduce or demean me to be like the herd? Fam, manipulate the herd. Manipulate them. Do it. Look at them. All right, you're all stupid, and I can read you better than you can because you spend all day worried about you. You know what I don't do? Spend all day worried about me. You know how much room that leaves for me to spend all day worried about your crazy bitch ass? So you know what I know? Your whole life. So you know what I'm going to do? Figure out how to get you to do what I want you to do, even if you don't know you're doing it, sheep. And you can bah all the way home. And then I just go home feeling like a mad, sovereign, ubermensch individual, having achieved what I wanted to do, manipulated 400 people who don't even know any fucking better. And there you go. I achieved my end. No one's stressed out. Everybody's still happy. And I'm all right. And I can meditate at the end of the week. And we all good. End the seminar. Thank you very much. I'll see y'all next week. That's how we do this shit. God damn it. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's dangerous. It's bad. It's bad.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's bad what I do out here. It's bad.
I honestly, I came in here wanting a lesson and I got one.
It's bad. Bad. I'm a bad man. Bad man. Yo, Muhammad Ali's a legend. I'm a bad man. Ali is a legend, man. You gotta love the guy. I'm a bad man. I'm just saying.
Of course.
All right, so listen. I'm just saying. Let's just make this clear. One, the self thing, don't do that. Don't do that. It's very simple. Don't do it. Every time it occurs to you as a thought, allow it to. It doesn't require a response. It's the same as a fart. And I mean that not just jokingly. I mean it literally. It's the same.
No.
In the sense that it's your mind farting you out. And you're just whiffing it. And like, ooh, is that me? Yes, it's you. Now move on. Like, I don't know why you sit.
That's actually really well said. It's you farting you out. I love it.
Yes, I think what I need to do is change my diet and adjust my spirituality. See my fucking point? I hate that shit.
Yeah,
Stop it. Stop it. It's just a fart. Let it go. And I swear to God, it disappears the same way as a fart does. It just wafts off into the wind. It disappears. Okay. And from there, you begin to be whatever it is you think of as an authentic self. Why? Because you stop concerning yourself with the secondary action. That's to say, the reflection back on yourself. And you start concerning yourself with correct action. How do I move correctly? That's your concern. Do that. I guarantee you will go home feeling better about yourself every fucking day of your life. Do the correct thing. I don't give a fuck what it is. Just do the right thing. Spike Lee said it already. I don't know why I'm out here. Just do the right thing, fam. Do it. Just do that. Like, why am I even saying this? Spike had it better than me. Like, he had a whole movie. I've got one camera and it's tiny. Like, the fuck, man? Just move correctly, bro. Like, life is way too short. Listen, I know I always end this on the same point, but this is why I like to have it put it. Life is way too fucking short to spend it worried about whether or not you're being the right version of you. You don't last very long, fam. You don't last very long. Like, you really don't. And I mean this in the local sense. You, whoever the fuck you think you are, literally changes every day, bro. And it changes with your environment. That's why it's changing. You're not separate from it. You're the same. You move with the wind, you fucking idiot. If you're trying to understand you, stop looking at the wind. Look at the earth. There's a system here, dickhead. I swear, it's not complicated. This isn't, and I'm not being mystical. Not deep. This really shouldn't be, like, I feel bad. This really shouldn't be the peak of philosophy. This is not deep. This is obvious shit. We're talking about standard stuff here. But because Ayn Rand and 100 years of psychoanalysis, we're so far removed from who we are as people, all of that is gone now. I mean, so, solutions. That's be them. 1, whenever that thought comes up, let's just let the whiff go, bro. 2, focus on correct, man. Just move correctly. Just do what's correct. So look at your environment and see what the environment requires of you and do what's correct, man. Just do that. 3, in so doing, you sharpen yourself, and that should be your goal, nothing else. Just sharpen yourself. Be better, a better you. And a better you is a more understanding, more compassionate, wider view, wider point of view, wider perspective you. That's more you, not narrower, man. You're supposed to learn more about the world, not less. You're supposed to get better at it. You're supposed to make reconciliation, understanding, and solutions easier, not harder, fam. You're supposed to get less entrenched, not more, fam. Like, relax. Just ease up off yourself a little bit. Let the world wash over you. And when it all comes to an end, you meet it happily, fam. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, we need a curtain. You know what I'm saying? Close curtain. We need some music. Like, I need some crying fans. Yo, peace and love to everyone. Yo, stay blessed. Everyone good. Much love out there. Stop being a fucking idiot with your life. Please don't do that. Yo, everybody stay the fuck at home, please. Don't go risking your life. I don't give a fuck what the government says. Stay the fuck at home. You know I'm trying to make this entertaining for you. Like, we here twice a week. God damn it. I got like a whole seminar on a Monday and I got a mix on a Sunday. Like, what do you need right now? What do you need? Hit me up, man. Come on, man. That's what I do. I'm the pusher, man. Philosophical pusher, man. Like,
You don't want that on the
yo, what do you
internet.
need? Nah, you do. What do you need, homie? I'm that guy with a jacket. We're just mad. Like, there's Kant, Nietzsche, little Schopenhauer over here, little Hegel. Like, yo, what you need, homie? Yo, what you need? Nah, I got you hooked up. You little Aristotle. I got 1-2 dose of Aristotle. That shit is fire. I got so. I'm just saying. I'm saying. Shit's cracked, man. Yeah. In any case, look. Much love to everybody who came along. I seriously appreciate it, man. Thank you. Y'all didn't need to be here. I understand why, but like, you know, y'all didn't need to be here. Thank you. Much love. I hope everybody's good. I hope everybody's healthy. Everyone stay blessed. Everyone stay indoors. Everyone look after everybody. Can we just focus on compassion and correctness, please? For everybody's sakes. Like, it's a messed up world as it is. We just focus on what we need to focus on. But yeah, thank you, homegirl. I appreciate you putting up with me. I know I'm loud. But like, you know, what can I say? It's what we do, fam.
Hey,
it's light work.
Both loud. It works.
It's light work. Hey, listen, we're gonna cut this off. I'm gonna go back to working. It's light work. All right, look, we'll see you. Everybody, listen, we're gonna see everybody here next week, same time, right? Next week, Monday, 7 o'clock. I'm gonna see you for seminar number. What are we on? 9 next week? Shit, god damn, seminar 9. We're getting close to those double figures, man. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna see you then. All right, no, seriously. Love, peace, love, health and blessings, man, to everybody. Y'all stay good, man. 1, I'm gonna see everybody later.